Folks are joining. That's cool. Usually, well, we'll see. We'll see how the audience climbs as we get going here. So yeah, today's the third live stream like this. Not my third live stream. I've done these a few times before. As I was building the product out in the first place, I would live stream on Twitter randomly and see who wanted to join, just to watch me build the product that you now see me using. Thank you, John, for the comment. You're the best. If you guys do respond, I love it. Audience participation is nice. Whether you want to be those supportive, nice, or those Muppets that sit in the balcony and heckle. I don't know what their names were, but they were my favorite. Any of those is fine. Today's live stream is going to be a little bit less of a demo specifically. Last time, I feel like it was a bit of a demo / lecture and pretty high stakes in terms of trying out new features and live and we're going to use some stuff today, but it's going to be less of a lecture and more of a kind of a Bob Ross kind of vibe, hopefully, which is important on a Wednesday. So let's make sure I can share my correct screen here. Share screen. Do this window. Let's do the window that I'm in. And still getting used to looking at the right places here. There we go. There's Bob. So if I look off to this side, that's because I'm trying to read your comments. If I look this way, it means I'm building. And if it's this way, it means I'm cheating because I'm looking at something that I've already built. So now you know the lay of the land. And it's going to be a little bit more of a child of the... I don't know if this reference crosses generations or not, but big Bob Ross fan. And fun fact, he painted, thousands of paintings, but you can't buy them. They're not up for auction. They're only, his family has them in some kind of archive, and kind of makes it cool, I guess. Adds the mystique. But yeah, he made painting approachable and easy for everyone. So let's make using no code and AI and no code easy for everyone. And what I want to talk about today is this concept called a customer data puddle. And the context for a customer data puddle is, and we've all been there. So you get some kind of event in your business. It's a recurring charge. Perhaps it's a call, it's a support ticket, something from a customer, most likely, or some kind of event. And it just causes you to wonder, I wonder how this customer is doing. How's their health? Can I somehow get an understanding of what their health is? And usually it involves going to a bunch of different systems and kind of, looking up what their status is in those systems, getting some data out, going to the right screens and all of that. And it's the kind of thing that's really ripe for automation, especially with no code and AI, where, yes, you can buy a customer success platform. That's kind of what you would think characterize these as. And you can spend a lot of money in building health analytics and dashboards and, likelihood of churning and all that. But I'm going to start experimenting this week with a concept called the customer data puddle. I thought data puddle was going to be a unique concept. It turns out actually, kind of like Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison competing for ideas, which is a super grandiose way to put it. Data puddle is already a term of art. So data puddle is basically a single purpose or single project data mart. Ooh, data mart. I haven't heard that one in a while. Built using big data technology. Okay, this is definitely not current buzzword. These were buzzwords, 10 years ago. But the idea of a data puddle, I love it. Data swamps, data puddles, data lakes. Data lake is the one I hear most often, of course, is that we don't need a whole lake of data if we're just dealing with a single customer. We just need to know a few things about a customer. And we want to save ourselves the time and the hassle of looking up that data in a bunch of different places and bring it together. So what I want to showcase today is what makes Summit a really nice fit for this is first, the ability to use AI, yes, which is in the title of the show, and you're going to get what you paid for here. But also being able to just fuse data from multiple sources is really nice, and I would say pretty unique to Summit, as you'll see in a minute. So we can just take data from all these different places and puddle it together, and we can just do that on the fly as needed, just in time, if you will, in order to do some analysis. And that means that it's current. It also means we don't have to do a bunch of data architecture and whatnot to build it up. And what I'm going to leave you with today is both the recipe and the template. It's going to be open source, the model in Summit. And I also have a pricing announcement for you. So I think stay tuned if you are into free things or things that are easy to get started with. Summit has some news there too. So yeah, let's start. Let's close out Bob and the data puddle. That was good context. And let's build something. So the trigger we're going to use, and we're going to use Zapier to trigger this. Like I said at the beginning, this could be triggered based on a HubSpot event inside HubSpot workflows. If you use Make, N8N, whatever it is, I just like to use Zapier because it's easy to display and it's obvious where we're headed. So I'm going to use Stripe, and we're going to say that there's some kind of event, which is canceled. That's interesting. Let's do a new charge. That would be correct. And the context for this is we want to just get a snapshot of what the health is of this customer when they get a new charge. So basically, if this is a monthly customer, this will end up being every month, every year, whatever it is. You could obviously play with the frequency of this and have it happen before they're coming up for renewal, every quarter, etc. Probably do that in a separate video. But so let's say a new charge comes through, and we'll just call this our kind of customer health summary. So this is our workflow, and we'll say this is it probably is geared towards monthly customers, right? So monthly subscribers. Cool. And so that's all we need as a trigger. And then for the action, as you've seen me do before, perhaps we can come in here and we can use our companion app. We call it our Summit companion app, which is called Models by Summit. What this lets me do is it lets me use anything I build in Summit from Zapier. We also have one for HubSpot. So we're not Zapier specific in that sense. And we're going to use the find one search, which means find one little snapshot of data. So we'll go in here to account. Let me make sure I choose the right one. I think it's this one. If it's not, that's why this is a reality TV production. We can just change it and that will be entertainment. Right? All right. And then what's the model we want to use? So I've got a bunch in here. It's the customer data puddle. I'm going to choose that one. And I think it's live already. I should say for this demo, I'm going to use my own email for everything. I don't want to leak anything, but if you want to send me an email, go right ahead. All the data that comes back is also fictitious, so got to be careful about that, of course. But I'm going to use my own email to drive it. Now, what you would normally do is you would go in here and you would change this to be the customer email. So you can see customer email. It's asking you what you want to use. Oh, and I need to complete this step first. But if we were to do this fully out, obviously this charge would be associated with a customer. You would get that customer email, and then you would pop it in here because we do want to feed the one and only input to this model right here, which is going to be the customer email address to use. So I'm going to do my own email address, and that's it. That's the only argument this uses. I'll show you later how if you wanted to expand the set of arguments or inputs parameters that the model takes, that's really easy to do. But that's all we need. It could take a customer ID instead, actually. But the problem with customer IDs is that they're not shared across systems. And remember, the goal of this customer puddle is we're going to have to do some lookups and searches in different systems to get the customer profile or data from each system. And we know email address obviously is universal. So we'll just use email address as the unique identifier. And we can run a test of this step. And we will see what comes back. And so, as I said, I'm cheating a little bit. I already have a lot of the model built. I will be giving you that template so you can use it yourself right after this. And as I said, we're launching a new pricing tier, which means that you can try this out for almost nothing. Try it out for a few customers, see how it goes. And there we go. So kind of to steal my own thunder here, but maybe set up the excitement. Here's what we get back. So new charge happens in Stripe. We do one step in Zapier, just one. So we folded a lot of power into one step. Obviously, Zapier charges by the step. So being able to get it down to one is pretty cool. And in that one step, we're doing a bunch of stuff. So as you can see, it says the customer has been consistently billed $54 a month since this date. In terms of usage, it gives me the org ID, which is useful. I can use that in my own internal systems. Predominantly using the embedded access types. So now we're getting to product language with usage peaking at wow. So we get product usage in this. Notice a considerable number of entries in this month. So we're getting basically product usage summarized here with peaks and valleys and all that. And it says, unfortunately, there's no currently information available regarding the customer's lacked activity in Intercom. So just to kind of sneak peek this, what we've done is we've combined this first line here. This is a summary of Stripe data. The second paragraph is actually summarizing product usage data, which is coming, in this case, from Postgres. And then this last line here is summarizing data coming out of Intercom. And so if I wanted to, I can now do anything with this summary. So I could have a channel, which, have a Slack channel, obviously, which says, hey, anytime a new charge happens, send an update, maybe route it to the right channel based on who it is. Or I could just update a contact in HubSpot, which I'm going to hint at later is what we're also using. And we haven't pulled in HubSpot yet. So if this is the Bob Ross thing, we haven't painted the foreground yet. The foreground here is going to be HubSpot. So we're going to paint that in. And what we would do here is update a contact. And what we want to update the contact with is obviously adding a note. So update a contact. And honestly, I'm not sure that this account that I'm connected to in HubSpot has a notes field, but exercise left to the reader. If you have HubSpot and you're a HubSpot aficionado or power user, or have an admin on your team, you can find the place to store this. There's probably some place to store this here, which is a note, but that's not the hard part. I'll just say, if you were doing that, we'll just, sure, let's just pick a field here before we get dizzy. But I really want to find a field that makes sense. This is the thing about HubSpot. A million fields and never the one you want, right? Time to this, time to that. Wow. WhatsApp phone number. We got that. How about just like notes or comment? I don't, the schema is probably beyond me. So I'm just going to shove this in here somewhere. Set every person that's ever used HubSpot. Contact activity message. Sure. So the results of this, here goes the account note, right? So what we can do now is based on this email, based on all this analysis and summary, we now just are going to pop in a HubSpot note here and update the contact. So basically once a month, we're having Zapier run the workflow. The workflow gets triggered because of the Stripe charge. Summit runs a model, which I'm going to show you in a minute, which is also all no code. And then we update the contact in HubSpot. So a very short kind of fail-proof Zap with a step in the middle that's kind of doing all the heavy lifting. So this is the vision. Again, there's a million ways to do this thanks to Zapier and all the options, but this would be a simple way to do it. And without further ado, let's actually look at the live stream. And if you see movement in the back, there's a 100-pound dog, but he's working on losing weight behind me. So that could be him. He made a cameo last time. So, all right. So let's look at this. And I'm really tempted to load up LinkedIn as well on the left-hand side, but I don't think I need to because it's bringing everything in. So I will sort of resist the urge a little bit. Okay, so let's, they're good. They're bringing in all the comments, so I don't need this. All right, so let's look at this customer data puddle. Now, the thing about Summit as a builder tool, and I'm going to zoom in. I messed that up last time. I don't want anybody to have to take out a microscope here. So again, based on this one customer email, we are going to do a bunch of things. We're going to reach out to our tooling, our stack, and we're going to merge all that data together and feed it to GPT. So again, with one no-code model, we're doing a 360 or 270 or 180, or at least a 90, whatever it is, better than doing nothing, and a lot better than just picking the tool that you thought of most recently or in most recently and looking up the customer and seeing what we know about them. Especially if you're in the early stages and you haven't invested in some big Salesforce or HubSpot-based customer success platform. This is a great sort of no-code way to do it yourself to get started. So what we're doing here is we're taking the email, which is the only input to the model. That's an argument. The reason we can tell it's an argument is, and this text up here is remaining small, but it says that's my personal email. Again, spam away, man. I'm not an inbox zero person, so if you want to send me an email, good luck. But I'm going to put my email address in here. So matt@usummit.com. Well, actually, I think for this, I'm going to leave it. Again, I'm using dummy data and demo data for all of this. So that way it both works and we're not leaking any sensitive information. But yeah, customer email. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to reach out to Intercom, Stripe, and Postgres. Now, why these three tools? Well, Stripe's pretty obvious. Probably this is where we're doing our billing. This could be ChargeBee. This could be Shopify, wherever you have that transactional data. And what we're doing with this is we are across these one, two, three, 5 steps, we're doing 2 calls to Stripe. So first, we're feeding that email address into this object. And what that's doing is it's basically creating the arguments, a query that goes into a Stripe search. So, we're using our own API key here because we're writing code. So obviously, never share this with anyone. This is stored in an encrypted tool called the Vault. So if we come in here, we can see the Vault. These are all encrypted. Never store anything in text or in a database. Never share your API keys in the clear, as they say. So this is encrypted, but we're going to put in our Stripe API key here, do a search. We're going to then take the results of that search, parse out the customer ID, because that's the thing. The devil about a lot of this stuff is, yay, I have the customer email. That means I can get all the data I want to about this customer from a Stripe, from a HubSpot, whatever, from an Intercom. Turns out that a lot of tools, not surprisingly, you might have a bunch of different customer records associated with email address, and they're not going to use email as their primary ID to do all the other lookups and information in their database. So the first step oftentimes in these tools or in these retrieval steps are, we got to do an initial search just to get the customer ID, which is the foreign key, the key that the vendor uses to describe this customer, identify this customer, out. So this is a customer search, again, using the email address. And then we're going to extract the ID. So now we get that customer ID out. We're going to pass that to charges here, which is another query. So now we're saying, hey, give me all of the charges that are relevant to this customer ID, because this is the customer ID we're passing in. So the results of that search, here's the customer, it's the ID, then do a charges search. And so by daisy chaining these 2 calls to Stripe together using no code, we're going to get back a history of all of their charges in Stripe. I'm going to kind of do a high level overview first. Feel free to ask questions, and then I'll kind of go into how some of these things work, because that's the fun part and the nuts and bolts. The other tools we have, though, and this is one that's mission critical, but very hard to do no code in many ways. And that's kind of what we're all about here at Summit, is making those things easier, is we have a actual Postgres view. So if you've ever used Heroku, thing I love and miss about that tool, we don't use it anymore, was it had this feature called data clips. There are other ways to do this. I'm using Hello Query for this, which is another no code SQL tool. But what it lets you do is you can open up a read-only connection to your database, and then you can take snapshots, which are called views, based on a query. And what Summit lets you do is you can actually spin up a in-memory SQLite database. Now, that's a lot of jargon, but what that means is, hey, give me a table that looks like a spreadsheet based on a CSV file that's stored somewhere out there, okay? And the CSV file stored somewhere out there is just a URL to a CSV. So that's what this is. This could be a Google Sheet as well. The point is, this is describing where to get the information, and it's a table of product usage data. And that's really important, because when we do a snapshot, we don't want to just know when did we last charge them. We want to know, are they using the darn product, right? So that's what this gives us. And then we immediately run a query that just says select star from that table. So again, this table element here in Summit, it's a SQLite database that just exists for a few milliseconds. When you run the thing, spins it up, spins it down again. And if you wanted to, you could actually build out more tables, and you could do joins and query across all of them. So, but for our purposes, it's actually easy enough just to get a snapshot of the last 30 days of product usage, or last year in this case, query for the customer that we're interested in. And voila, now in the model, we've got access to product usage data, which we can then feed to GPT, right? So kind of zooming out again. So we've got Stripe, we've got Postgres, and now we've got Intercom. This is a fun one. Intercom definitely has a kind of a more elaborate way that you do a lookup, for better or worse. I think it's for better ultimately, but you pass in a token again, encrypted. Obviously, you don't see it here. You tell them the version of the API you're using, all of this. If this is jargon to you, if this is nonsense, there's good news. We have a GPT that is linked to on our site. So I'll show you that now. If you come in here to, let's go to models. So list all the models in my account. This is kind of my Summit dashboard. GPT wrote this, was my initial eureka moment of, oh my gosh, Eureka, GPT's writing models now in Summit. But if you come to import, we're going to expose this better. We do have a chat with our GPT option. So I can actually load this up, and you can see Summit event language data scripting. So what this lets me do is I can actually ask this questions, and we've preloaded this with a prompt, which I think they allow up to 7,000 or so tokens. Here, which is we've kind of filled it to the brim with Summit knowledge. But you can just ask this thing, hey, I'm using Intercom, and can you give me a customer search object I can modify? So this thing knows Summit event language. It also understands Intercom because it's GPT after all. And this thing is basically my co-pilot for writing Summit models. So here we go. It's going to spit out the Summit code, and it's giving me the object to use to run a query. So this gets me part of the way there. So when you have endpoints or objects or headers or things you want to use, I mean, obviously Summit doesn't know all the endpoints out there, and that's one of the beautiful things is we're never going to. But if it's in a retool, if you can describe it, if it's Intercom, if it's HubSpot, if it already exists, there's odds that GPT understands it and can just give you the code to use. And so you can copy paste these snippets in. You can get a model started that way. I have a previous live stream where I showed that. And so in this one, going back to our model here, which is a draft, that's how I created this. So this long thing here, GPT helped me create, which is we got to pass in our authorization headers. We got to pass in a JSON object. This is that query. And we're going to say where the email equals this customer email. Next thing that happens is we make the request. This is the endpoint that Intercom has us use. We post to it. Again, GPT can give me this if I don't know what it is, or you can read the Intercom docs. And then these three green kind of magical steps here in Summit, zooming in, these are parsing out the important, interesting data. So let me run this thing here. I'm going to add a debug step so we can see what's happening. I'm going to run this thing here, and we're going to see what we get back. Now, this is calling GPT, so this is going to take a few seconds. And while that finishes, John says, how can I group different users by account? Can Summit do that? Yes. So the way I would do that is you're going to need flexibility at the kind of the meta base or SQL layer. You're not going to expose your SQL database sort of connection string to Summit. I mean, you could actually, if you want to, you could do that. You could write SQL and send it to some kind of endpoint in your own system and query that way. But grouping by is SQL jargon for this step. So in other words, if this table here had a bunch of different customers in it, as long as one of those columns was the organization they're in, or even if it wasn't, if you wanted to group by their email address, you could modify this query here and just say select star from table, and then I could do a group by email like, and that's SQL jargon, %, meaning anything before the %, usesummit.com, right? If I can spell usesummit.com. So this would be one way to do it, is probably the easiest way is just modify the SQL here to do a group by. If you didn't already have that. And then I would say, actually, you want to filter this, right? So you want to say, I would probably change this to a where, right? So those are different concepts. Where email like this would just give me all of the email addresses and all of the user activity for anyone who has that domain, right? Or John, to your point, you could do a group by here instead. Fortunately, writing SQL is one of those things that GPT excels at. So if you can what I would do is I would tell GPT what this table looks like. I'm going to turn off auto run here. I would tell GPT what this table looks like, and then I would just have it write the SQL for me, frankly. So that'd be the way I do it. It is a little bit of a obviously development process, but yeah, it's definitely doable. So what I'm doing here in Intercom, and I said I would have this step, is I have to run this again probably. I want to see what data Intercom gives back because we can kind of look at this for ourselves. So I'm going to run this. It's going to take a hot minute again because GPT is going to run. These 200s mean that these requests succeeded. That's a happy code. There's nothing under data yet because the debug data yet. This is the summary that you saw in Zapier, so this is already working. But under this debug step, we should see when this finishes the data we got back from Intercom. Yeah, there we go. So there's me in Intercom. It did a search based on email. And what's cool about Intercom, at least for us, is this has data on, chat and activity in terms of interacting with this visitor on our website. So if they had a question, we responded. We used it for our email marketing. So when we see these last replied at and last contacted at, these are the gems, if you will, or the truffles in the forest. And I want to extract these. As a no coder, dealing with all of this is kind of a nightmare. But these are really valuable. These tell me, as a CS person, what I want to know about interacting with this customer. So wouldn't it be nice if I could just pull those out and also translate 16991411119 into a date that the average human can interpret? Well, good thing we have GPT these days because we can do that. So what's happening here is Summit gives me the ability to extract data points from any JSON object using what we call the parser. So I can say little special syntax, $, dot, dot, last seen at, last replied at, last contacted at, pull those little truffles out of the forest. And now I have them. And now I have them for this customer based on Intercom. Isn't that great? But then what, right? So what happens is all this data gets collected and then we feed it to GPT. And I like to say, perhaps Summit is GPT's favorite no-code tool, just like Oreos are Milk's favorite cookie, because it just makes it so easy, right, and so digestible to get this stuff into a prompt. And so, a lot of the value in GPT, of course, is creating a prompt that has any merit. And if you're just typing things in GPT, it's not automated, and you're just not going to put all the information in there that lets it do a great job. So what we're doing here in Summit, again, in an automated step, is all of this data finishes. We've made 2 requests to Stripe. We've parsed things out of Intercom. We pulled customer usage data out. And now, this is the fun part, right? Now we get to compose a prompt where all this data is at our fingertips. And that's what this is. So this is a prompt. It says the billing data to summarize. And it says for charge and charges data, show the created date, show the amount. So what we're doing here is we're looping over the charges that came back from Stripe, and we're just pulling out the parts we care about. So for these purposes, all I wanted to know is the created timestamp when the charge happened. I want to know the amount. Liquid syntax is really powerful here, so you're able to do all the stuff from Stripe comes back formatted as decimals, at pennies. So I'm doing a divided by 100. Liquid syntax is super powerful and friendly in terms of messing with text and data, which makes it a great prompt composition tool, right? So here I am just spinning over all this data from 3 different vendors, composing a prompt dynamically. And then at the end here, I say, in terms of website and support activity, I need to tell it what the heck it's about to see. As per Intercom, last seen on this date, last seen on this, last replied was this date, and last contacted was this date. Now, remember I said a minute ago, these dates are in that Unix timestamp format, which is the 1611, whatever it is, which is the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970, which is incredible that we're still using that. But very, very useful, it turns out, just to be counting seconds since January 1st, 1970, UTC, Greenwich Mean Time. But that's not good for a summary for an account note. So what I'm doing in here is I'm also this is the sort of my side of the prompt, right? This is the user part. In the prompt itself, okay, I'm feeding it a queue here, right? What they call the system content prompt, which says you're a business analyst for a SaaS reviewing accounts. This customer account needs to be concisely summarized for our customer success team, including subscription, product usage, and contact timing in human readable date formats. So that one little twist of phrase there, human readable, gives GPT enough to go, aha, I get it. I'm not going to be showing you these Unix timestamps. I'll spare you that misery and show you something that an account exec can read and understand before a meeting. So, and then here, important step, summary data. So again, liquid syntax, that's what this means. This is a variable. Why summary data? Okay, it's summary data because that's this step in Summit. So when you see a little variable like that, like summary data, this text here refers to one of 2 things: either a encrypted key that's stored in my environment, which will be all capitalized as best practice, or you'll see it lowercase, and that refers to another event or object in the workflow. So in this case, summary data is a text object. It's what had all that cool sort of generation and inserting of data. Now the prompt gets that interpolated, as they say, injected, placed into it, pasted into it, and then we feed it to GPT. Again, we can even pick the model. So I have GPT-4. Guess I'm feeling a little rich today. I can speed this up if I want to and say GPT-4 Turbo. So how cool is that if they come out with 5, or I want to use something else, or 3? It's literally just a text change away. Super fun. And we can use GPT multiple times. So, a lot of times GPT using it once will give you something. We can add another GPT step here if you wanted to, and then feed the results of that into it and say, hey, I know you just said this. Can you remove anything that's, any jargon? Can you do this? Can you do that? And actually give GPT a second chance to write something before sending it back to Zapier. So we can even chain together, multiple calls to GPT using Summit. There's no reason just to use it once if you don't want to. So I came in here, made it faster. That is the flow, right? And we're doing a lot of work. And I think what I want to do now is obviously questions. Happy to answer. I'm gonna do a couple things. Take a sip of coffee, but I'm also going to share this with everybody and say that if you want to try this out yourselves, maybe you don't use Intercom, maybe you're not going to do the Postgres part, whatever it is. Happy to help you build something, but you can in some cases just run with what we have here. Someone on the last live stream that was watching, I built a tool, I built a flow or a model that used the Wayback Machine, and I love the Wayback Machine. It grabbed a snapshot of somebody's website from today, and then it grabbed a snapshot of somebody's website from a year ago, and then we told GPT to compare the two. And that gave us basically instant analysis of like a go-to-market changes, for a competitor, for a prospect, for a customer, which is that's like a derivative sort of bit of wisdom that's really hard to get at. I mean, if you're just going through life like I am, you're looking at the latest, you're not tracking websites from a year ago, but to have AI and GPT, AI and Wayback Machine working together through one model run, do that is pretty cool. And so what that Summit customer is doing now is they said, well, that's cool. They ran with it and they removed part of it, and they're having it just, hey, a new person signed up for for our SaaS, our platform. They're going out to using the Wayback Machine. They're grabbing the latest snapshot of the website, or actually they're just scraping their website, pulling out the clean stuff, getting rid of the HTML, and then just sending GPT in one of these, composed prompts and saying, does this website indicate that this person fits this persona? And they had some qualifying personas around, a SaaS, a freemium model, free trials, enterprise, whatever it is you're looking for. So they basically built a lead qualification model of their own using Summit, just with a few steps. So highly encourage you to run with these. I'm going to make this publicly available at the end. It'll be shared on my Twitter and LinkedIn and on the comments to this live stream. So there was your intermission. Let me pause and think. What do we want to show next? So yes, we want to show, we want to add something to this. So yes, let's add HubSpot to this. Like I said, I'm cheating because I already know I'm connected and it works. But maybe we're all there. We've all been there. We have Intercom for support and messaging. We've got Stripe for billing. We've got Postgres for product data. We're also adopting HubSpot. Not everything's in there yet. Maybe it is, but maybe we're transitioning to ticketing in HubSpot. So actually, it's not a complete picture just to see if they've interacted with Intercom. We also need to see if there's any tickets in HubSpot. So we're going to use our little helper Copilot for Summit here in GPT to help us figure out what that looks like. We're going to add HubSpot to this list, and then we're going to run it again. And that'll kind of be the end of the show. So let's do that. All right, zooming in here to kind of see things a little bit better. And by the way, hello to all 105 of you. If I'm behind a window, that's totally cool. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. It is Wednesday everywhere still, I think. No, that's not true. Coming up on it being the next day for some of you. Okay, so let me look at this. Let's do this. Actually, I'm going to go through it as a user. It's really, I love to use Summit. I like to use it a lot. I think it's a good thing where I find the rough edges. One rough edge I found is, why do I have to go to a tab? This should be under our book. So if you click this book here, we got our model building guide, tutorials, recipes. That's where you'll find this later. Open source models, I'm going to put it there as well. So this is our GitHub repo. Again, we have a collection of models that work with Airtable, HubSpot, Stripe. Agnostic means everything and anything. And then we tell you how to use these. So we're building up a library. Would love it if anybody using Summit in a no-code capacity wants to add to this library. Let's build an arsenal, that anybody can use, just like open source has. I think it's sad that no code doesn't have that yet. So that's what that is. YouTube channel, that's where these live streams go. Maybe we'll get around to shorts. Send us a message that loads up Intercom. It's probably gonna be me or Ryan on the other side. So if you want to chat directly with one of us, come on in. And then, yes, Copilot should go under here, right? That'll happen after this show. But for now, here it is. It's a link. This is our data scripting kind of Copilot in GPT. And yeah, we want to add HubSpot. So I'm not going to read the words out loud. I think it's actually kind of annoying, but I'm going to type here for a little bit. So So I'm just using natural human language, just YOLO this thing. I have HubSpot also. Tell me if any tickets exist. Show me how to do that. Come on. You're the smartest non-human in the world. Let's figure this out. And that says check for existing tickets. Here's how we can do that. So you're going to use a proxy event. So it's telling us what kind of event to use in Summit. It's giving us the ticket search parameters. So apparently HubSpot just takes an email address, which is cool. And then the fetch tickets endpoint is just CRM v3 objects tickets. So what this really saved me is not having to figure out what this endpoint is. And I mean, how cool is it that GPT has basically just eaten all the docs? So thank you, GPT. Now, if I were building a model from scratch, I could actually copy this, come over into Summit. Maybe this is the bones to get me started. I can actually come over here to models, import, just paste this. And we'll say HS ticketing lookup, right? And go. So I click import and we're done. So I've now got a model that's already the bones of, this kind of data puddle. But I already have something. I'm going to build off that instead. I do want to yoink this though, steal that. And I'm also going to steal that other bit here in a second. So yeah, let's add another thing. I also like how Summit is, it's a canvas. So we currently allow you to put text, boxes, kind of categorize zones and areas. We're not in two different tools here. One's a canvas and one's a workflow builder. It's all in one. We also have this HubSpot snippet here. So on the left-hand side, in case you're wondering, these are snippets. So add a request, add a response, add some text, call another Summit model. So if I wanted to, this could actually be 3 separate models. I call all of those, and then I can reuse them anywhere. So maybe I build another model which just calls Intercom, and now I have my Intercom latest interaction model that I can call anytime I want to. That could be its own model, just this box on top. If I wanted to call that, I could click this button here, paste that in, but adding a CSV. But I already have a HubSpot one. I'm going to click this, and there we go. So I basically placed a HubSpot call on my board. Now this endpoint is giving me by default is contacts. Pretty darn universally useful. That's not the one I want. Remember, the one I want here is tickets. It's just the word tickets, but it could be more complicated. So we're just going to do the very human thing and paste this in. Let's see, what did I copy? I copied the whole thing. So here we go. Paste. All right, so that's a tickets lookup. Now, in case you're wondering how this works, so this is you notice there's no API key here. This is what we call a proxy event or a proxy request. The reason it's called proxy is we're using the OAuth connection that's already connected my Summit account in the background here. If I go to integrations, I can see that I am connected to HubSpot. So each of these is not API key based or token based. It is a OAuth. So if I click connect, it'll pop up a modal, let me connect. We're adding to this. So if you don't see yours, which wouldn't be surprising because there's 5, no big deal. We can add them. Just let us know. What is really saving me is just a little bit more of a complicated request here. And so I can come back into my models, open this up, and yeah, use this. So that's how this is working. So yeah, basically I didn't have to put in the HTTPS hubspot.com/API, any of that stuff either. It's just the interesting part of the endpoint, which is tickets. And we want to extract something. I'm not really sure what yet. So let's do this. We're going to speed this up by actually temporarily disconnecting. So I'm going to break this connection here like this. And like this, and because I don't want to incur that 5-second delay each time. Also don't want to burn tokens. We'll connect him back when we're ready. And yeah, let's put a little debugger step on screen, which is going to show us what comes back from this HubSpot step. And these Stripe calls are also kind of expensive, but not in the literal sense, just a little slow. So let's run this. All right, HubSpot contacts to debug take 1 here. We'll see what comes back from this call. What tickets we have in here. Okay. All right. So yeah, there are some tickets. So under, and what I'm going to do here is it says debug. I'm going to call this tickets, HubSpot tickets. So it's just a little bit easier to see. HubSpot. Well, that would be a change. HubSpot. Have they considered HubSpot? All right. So that will now show up in this response data. So if you're a developer, you're familiar, this is like having a console log. Basically, I can print things to the screen, and dirty secrets, even the best developers, like ones that have been doing it for 20 years or more, we're all printing things to the screen. Let's not kid ourselves. It happens. So what we're doing here is we're printing the results of this HubSpot request to the screen, and it says HubSpot tickets. So awesome. And turns out there are some tickets that are open for this customer. And it says when they were created, what the properties were, etc. So that's interesting. That's important information. And yeah, we wanted to know that. So we now need to feed this to GPT. And we just kind of want to know, what do we want to know? I kind of want to know the count, like how many tickets, or you know what? I just want to know if there are tickets. So let's pull out, let's parse out created at. Created at should be good. Or maybe updated at. Updated at would be good because it means that's when we actually did something for them. You could build a more advanced prompt by doing both, obviously. So I'm going to show this here. So let's extract when it was created. Now, this little syntax here, ... means look anywhere in the JSON response for this. So we're going to grab the updated at part of this. It's going to grab any of the updated data points out of this. So that giant HubSpot response, which is full of information, but only contains a few things I actually care about, is going to get, if this works, parsed down to just, there you go, just the created at. So it's a lot of tickets. Doesn't mean they're not resolved, but this says something, right? And the fact that this is here and says something is something we now want to feed into our 360-degree kind of customer health view. And so we pulled out the created at. I could pull out updated at instead if I wanted to go kind of this intercom route, but times are running short and we can always improve this later. So let's do this. Let's put this here. We got our extraction step. We don't need this debug step anymore because we know it's coming out. And yeah, we're going to extract these emails. Kind of keep the color coding going here. So that's green. Zoom in, orange and green. Go Miami. And we're going to add a little box around here just to leave notes for our collaborators that this is a HubSpot edition. And add this here. So our data puddle growth. We're proud of our brown little watercolor here. All right, HubSpot. I don't know why I did all caps for the rest, but I don't have to be consistent. Consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds. So said Emerson, I think. All right, so here we go. Sweet. I mean, I have it. Great. Nice doing business with you. We have that now. So let's make our prompt better now, right? So we can go back into summary data and improve so we don't need to improve the prompt itself. The prompt itself has already got this summary data step in it, right? That's the aggregation. So that's all the content. We just need to improve the text object that iterates over this stuff. And so I'm going to add one more little loop here. In terms of website and support activity, I'm going to change that because, like I said, the whole theory here is we're migrating over to HubSpot. So website and marketing communication activity, that's Intercom. And in terms of support tickets, here are all of the, what was this, updated or created? This is, I want to do updated. I'll change it if I need to. Here are all the tickets with last updated times. And again, taking a step back, what I love about this puddle is, okay, we would normally, if you were a developer, and this is where I like to honestly flex on the developer part of myself, is that if you had these formatted timestamps, these are, if you're not familiar, ISO formatted text-based timestamps, which is a very universal format. That's cool. It becomes easy to create a date object. Intercom was giving me back Unix timestamps, second since January 1st, 1970. I don't have to deal with that. The puddle lets me just throw these different formatted times into a bucket and just let GPT deal with that, right? And it can deal with that because it's like, oh yeah, I recognize this and I recognize this one. GPT in this case is observing the Unix principle, which I love, which is be generous in what you can accept, right? So it can accept timestamps in any of these formats. And that means I don't have to do a bunch of work between this HubSpot ticket, information extraction and actually running the prompt. So I'm going to do this and say, here are all the tickets last updated timestamps. Now I need to create a loop. Liquid syntax supports loops, as you can see. So for ticket, I can just make up a word for ticket in, and what was this? This was HubSpot. It's not HubSpot tickets. It's actually what, yeah, I think it was HubSpot. We'll change it. We need to in HubSpot tickets. I don't remember the name of that event. In HubSpot tickets, and we don't have autocomplete yet. Let's do updated at, and this will just give us obviously an idea of how much activity we've had in terms of support, and if I see something and it has a last updated, or if it's not closed yet, maybe I have an action to do to follow up. So that's N4. That's easy. And then we need to put in that ticket. I called it ticket, so we can just do ticket. And these are actually ticket times. So for ticket time in HubSpot tickets, ticket time. All right, so that's in there now. And actually this was called extract emails, which is dumb. So this is HubSpot tickets. I'm going to rename these so that works. HubSpot tickets. And this is our HubSpot ticket search, right? So HubSpot ticket search. All right, cool. Didn't change anything functional there. I did change how this prompt looks. So let's go ahead and I'm going to add that debugger step again, just so I can see. And again, if you're overwhelmed and you don't want to build this yourself, I'm going to share this so you can just start with it if you want to and learn how to change things. But let's do this. I'm going to run this and see what comes back in terms of that prompt. Now, this is so this is what GPT gets. Now, this can get long. If we had a lot of data, we can always truncate it. But this is us. This is what you would never type, obviously. So the billing data to summarize is this, GPT. Product usage data is this. This is coming from that SQL query. So this is why it's so, it looks like a table, because it is. That's all that. And then in terms of support activity, here's the Intercom timestamps, and then voila. In terms of support tickets, here are all the tickets with last updated times updated at. So there we go. I mean, this is a nightmare for a human, but we're going to use GPT to summarize it for us. And what I'm also going to do is, I don't like how this doesn't say HubSpot in here. So in terms of support tickets, here are all the tickets in HubSpot. And I can't do it here because not enough time, but one thing that'd be super cool, obviously, is you could add in, or you could tell it, hey, by the way, in your message and your response, please include links, deep links to the customer in HubSpot, the customer in Intercom, the customer in Stripe, right? And so then when you get the summary emailed or added or whatever, sweet, there's just links, deep links to the customer records in all these different tools, which is basically saying, here's where we got the data. If you don't believe the summary, if you're worried there's a hallucination, you got the Reagan effect of trust but verify. All right, Reagan principle. All right, cool. So that's done. I trust it. It's working. Let's feed this to GPT, and then we're going to go back into Zapier and finish the story here. Send this to GPT. Now I'm going to turn off auto run. Calls in Summit don't cost anything, meaning when you're building, we charge nothing for that. So it's totally free. So all this building time is just, take as long as you need or as much as time as you want. But it is slow when you call GPT. So I turned it off temporarily. And now we're going to deliberately run this, and we should only see this account note come back. And it should say something, if we're right, if our calculations are correct, it's going to break. Hold on. Something went wrong. Probably bad formatting. Let's do this. Let's check and see if because it was working a second ago. Did we remove something? Okay, broke when we fed it to GPT. So let's do escape. Make sure the data is escaped. Could be it. Nope, still not happy. All right, well, hey, this is part of the joy. Oops. All right. Uh-oh. Cloudflare. Is the whole internet down? That looks like Cloudflare to me. Oh, no. Well, this is where we need to show the please hold music. It's a DNS update. This is definitely a DNS update. Look at that. 5 minutes later would have been awesome. Nope, still out. Wow. Well, Anybody see anything cool recently? Let's see. Cloudflare, is it just me? Well, let's see. Is anybody else down? This is definitely a DNS issue. Well, no one else is complaining at the moment. So, nope, don't see anything. This could be us. Let me go back to our root and see if that's that. Okay, we're back. Cool. Okay. Temporary hiccup. You know, it's amazing the internet works. We're back. Look at that. Self-healing. Scheduled maintenance in progress. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Andrew, you're not joking. That is so nice of you. There we go. Sweet. And I just learned something new too. I can put your stuff here. Cloudflarestatus.com. Amazing. Thanks, man. I feel better. And for everybody that stuck with us, thank you. It's not just us. But look how short that was. Those guys are amazing. Long Cloudflare. Okay. Great. Beautiful. Let's try that again, shall we? I guess if something went wrong was also probably that. It's probably part of it going down first, and then it was us as the rotations completed. It's always DNS, right? Not always, but it is the root cause of much suffering in the development world. All right. So we fed it the HubSpot data, and yeah, if this works, we're in business. If it doesn't, or if part of the internet goes down again. All right, there we go. So I can see here, and bring this up here, I'll highlight. They also show regular but sporadic interactions with support with recent heightened activity in May. Prompt attention to recent inquiries, ensuring readiness potential would enhance satisfaction. So is that true or not? I don't know. All we did was feed it, obviously, a... Thank you, Peter. Obviously, a incomplete summary, right? We would want to show... we want to feed it more data. So we'd probably want to show, hey, for each ticket, also show the status of the ticket, also show, you know, the completed at, updated at, all that stuff. And we could go deep, right? And we could just have this model be all about summarizing support velocity or something, right? And I'm sure GPT could look at all those timestamps in the ticketing data from HubSpot and summarize that for us. But again, this is like 360 high level summary of a customer account. So we're not doing that in this model, but we could. So I think it's pretty cool. We brought in HubSpot, and now, you know, sort of for the grand finale, let's rerun this test here, which is this one. Again, back to the test. And if this works, I'm going to republish this. Okay, so yeah, important step. Set live here at the top right in Summit Land. Okay, so if I go back, this model here, I think I have either Cloudflare's down again or I have a lot in this account. Or it's by internet. Ah, yes. Stay connected. I actually just got connected to the slow router in my house. We're got all the hiccups today. maybe AT&T got rotated or something. I do have gigabit. Refresh. This is the least exciting part, right? Okay, this is my issue, I think. If this is my issue, then you all can't see me. Okay, but now we're back. We will get over the finish line here, I promise, and we're going to do it under the 1 hour mark. Let's go back to the root. There we go. State could have been pretty fried at that point. Yeah, definitely the scheduled maintenance bug. But point being, we could come back into Zapier here. We could call it, just in case we don't get there live, where you do have the Intercom data that'll come back this time, and we also have the HubSpot data. You can feed that back into HubSpot. Obviously, you could start with HubSpot if you wanted to, but that's kind of the whole demo. Try to finish it here if the internet lets me. If it doesn't, important calls to action in the last few minutes. Thank you for continuing to watch. We are excited to announce that we are now, I believe, the first and only no-code platform with true usage-based pricing across the board. So there is literally no minimum commitment to get started and to use Summit. So this is our Discover page. Let me go here on pricing. Boy, pricing. So we have a maker plan. It starts at 0. It's pay as you go. It's so and how does it work? It's 5 cents per 100 credits. As you run models, you burn credits. So that's cool, in my opinion, because it means after today or right now, I'm going to put this into our recipes and in the open source repo. If you come to usesummit.com and sign up and ask for an account access, we'll get you set up on this. And you can start using a puddle of your own in workflows of your own. And it is literally pay as you go. So if you want to try this for a handful of customers, a handful of workflows, we're literally talking getting started for nickels and dimes here if you want to. And if it works, if people love it, you can scale it up. If not, you can modify it. And again, all of the usage inside of the tool does not count. So we're only talking about external API calls. So that's how this works. I'm going to finish this movie, if I can, by clicking set live, set live. Now, again, even when you set this thing live, we're not charging for that. It's literally only when you call it. So this call here, I'm going to go back into Zapier, drum roll. I'm going to come into actions. We need to refresh the models that are available in our Zapier dropdown. Find that puddle that is live stream related. Live stream, there we go. It showed up. Why? Because I published it, and this companion app automatically loads up all of the models that I have in Summit. And now we can run a test, and it worked last time, right? So let's see. It is passing in matt@usesummit.com as the email address. I think I hard-coded that correctly. We may need to hard-code it again. Like I said, there's some mismatch here in terms of the data I'm passing in because it's dummy data, but this obviously would be your account. So that's how this works. And if you want to get started, let me know. This has been a fun live stream. I think the concept of a puddle or data puddle isn't just about customers. This could be about projects, real estate properties, really anything where you're using, I mean, who isn't using 10, different sources of data and tools for SaaS? So yeah, there's a timeout there. Could still be networking issues. So on that note, we'll wrap it up. But again, thank you for watching. This has been super fun. And I will share in the LinkedIn comments here a link to this recipe and this model so you can use it, and a link to get signed up and started for free if you want to. Thanks for watching. Good luck with all of your coding and no coding. And I will see you again probably next week. Bye for now.